The colony on Vera 7 had always been a strange place for humans. The planet's skies were deep purple, streaked with green clouds, and its forests glowed faintly at night. The human settlers had built their domes carefully, mixing their own technology with the natural bioluminescence of the world. But no matter how advanced their machines were, nothing could have prepared them for living alongside the Thrylians, tall, elegant aliens with translucent skin, multiple limbs, and eyes that could see far beyond human range. Among the settlers was Jalen, a young human assigned to a research station. He spent most of his days studying the planet's flora and fauna. But today, he was tasked with something much harder: looking after a group of Thrylian children. Unlike human kids, who were boisterous and loud, Thrylian children moved with a quiet grace, their large eyes always observing, always questioning. Jalen had just finished organizing a small activity in the dome's garden area. He had planted seedlings of Vera's glowing plants, and the Thrylian children were carefully tending to them, using delicate tools that seemed far too fragile for such large hands. "Careful," Jalen said, kneeling beside one of the children. "If you press too hard, the roots will break." The Thrylian nodded, concentrating intensely. For a moment, everything was calm. The hum of the dome's life support systems, the soft glow of plants, and the gentle swish of alien leaves created a peaceful scene. Jalen felt almost normal. Then came the question. One of the smallest Thrylian children, a curious little being named Leary, tilted her head and looked at Jalen with her enormous, shimmering eyes. "How are your babies made?" Jalen froze. His mind went blank, and his face heated instantly. The question was simple, almost innocent, but he had never been prepared to answer it in front of dozens of watching eyes. Babies?" he repeated, trying to buy time. "Yes," Leary said, her voice like a musical chime. "Human babies. How do humans make more humans?" Jalen's heart raced. He had always found human biology complicated enough to explain in science class, let alone to a child who could see the emotions behind every human expression. And these were not humans. These were Thrylians, beings who approached life with logic, curiosity, and zero embarrassment. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Words failed him. How could he explain conception without using terms that would make him squirm? How could he give an answer that was simple, safe, and not weird? Finally, after a long pause, he said the first thing that came to his mind. Maybe by kissing each other, I guess?" There was silence. The Thrylian children blinked at him, their luminous eyes wide with surprise. Then, Leary's small mouth formed a perfect circle. "Kissing?" she asked, her tone both skeptical and fascinated. Jalen nodded quickly. "Yeah, well, sort of. It's a human thing. Humans do this to show they like each other. And sometimes babies happen. But it's more complicated than that." He waved his hands vaguely, hoping that would be enough to end the discussion. It wasn't enough. Leary's curiosity only deepened. "So, if two humans kiss, will a baby appear immediately?" Jalen gulped. No, not like that. It takes time, lots of time, and there are other steps, very complicated steps." Leary's eyes sparkled. "Other steps?" "Yes," Jalen said, trying to sound casual, though his face was burning. "Very complicated. Grown-ups do it when they are ready, and babies come later." For a moment, Leary seemed to ponder this. Then she ran over to another Thrylian child, gesturing excitedly. Jalen heard snippets of conversation in their strange, musical language, punctuated by laughs and chirps. He had no idea what they were saying, but he could tell it was all about humans, kissing, and babies. Panic began to rise in Jalen's chest. "Oh no," he muttered under his breath. "They're going to spread the story." By the time he realized what was happening, the story had already gone viral among the Thrylian children. One by one, they approached him with questions. "Do humans kiss for babies? Do all humans kiss like that? Will I see a human baby if I kiss?" Jalen's attempts at answering became more frantic and more vague. He tried explanations like, "It's a special human thing," or "Humans have many ways to show love." But nothing stopped their curiosity. The children were relentless. And somehow, the story became more exaggerated with each retelling. By mid-afternoon, Jalen had learned an important lesson. Never underestimate the imagination of children, especially intelligent alien children. After lunch, he retreated to the research lab, hoping to regain a sense of control. He leaned back in his chair and rubbed his eyes. "Okay," he said aloud. "Think. How do you fix this without causing cultural chaos?" It was impossible. Leary and her friends had already started a game in the dome called Human Baby Kisses. They lined up, holding hands, and pretended to make babies appear with exaggerated kissing motions. Other Thrylian kids joined in, imitating the humans they had never truly seen but were now obsessed with. Jalen could only sigh. He knew he had to do something, but he didn't know what. The Thrylian children were clever, and the adults would not understand if he tried to explain. And even if he did, the cultural gap was huge. Humans were emotional, physical beings, and Thrylians, well, Thrylians, had a different way of seeing the world. He decided the best approach was to turn the situation into a learning opportunity. Instead of correcting them directly, he began teaching the children about human social bonding. "Humans show care for each other," he said carefully, "by hugging, talking, laughing together, and yes, kissing sometimes. But the most important thing is love and respect." The children listened, though their eyes occasionally drifted back to the imaginary baby-making game. Jalen tried to ignore it, focusing instead on the bigger lesson. Humans had emotional depth, and even a simple action like a kiss carried meaning beyond biology. As the day went on, Jalen realized something fascinating. The Thrylians were not just repeating what he said, they were observing, analyzing, and trying to understand. They didn't have shame in the human sense. They were purely curious. And in that curiosity, Jalen saw an opportunity. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy. Many alien species saw them as fragile, short-lived, and physically weaker than most interstellar races. But here, in the glowing domes of Vera 7, humans were something else. They were capable of emotions so strong that they inspired trust, cooperation, and loyalty. Their bonds were visible, tangible, and powerful, and even a confused explanation about babies could show that. By the evening, the story of human kisses making babies had spread beyond the children. A few young Thrylian adults had overheard snippets and were curious, approaching Jalen with careful questions. Jalen laughed nervously, realizing his innocent lie had sparked something bigger than he intended. He decided honesty, mixed with simplicity, was the best path forward. "Humans are different," he told them. "We have feelings, we show them in ways that are important to us, and sometimes humans do amazing things together. But the story about kisses making babies? That's a little joke. Humans are more complicated than that." The Thrylians tilted their heads, processing the information. Their expressions were unreadable. But Jalen noticed a glimmer of respect. Or maybe fascination. Even in his flustered attempt to answer an innocent question, humans had somehow shone through. As night fell, Jalen looked out at the glowing forest beyond the dome. The stars of Vera 7 sparkled overhead, strange and beautiful. Somewhere in that forest, Thrylian children were playing their human baby kiss game, laughing and chattering in their alien language. And Jalen realized, with a mix of embarrassment and pride, that humans had once again proven something remarkable. Even a flustered human, faced with an impossible question, could leave a lasting impression. Tomorrow, he knew, would bring more questions. But for tonight, he allowed himself a small smile. Humans were strange, unpredictable, and emotional. And somehow, that made them extraordinary. The next morning, Jalen woke up with a sense of dread. He knew the Thrylian children had already begun sharing his flustered explanation about humans and kissing, but he had no idea just how fast rumors could travel among Vera 7's young aliens. When he entered the main dome, the scene was chaotic. Leary and her friends had turned the entire recreation area into a human baby academy. Small stations were set up, each labeled with silly signs in Thrylian script. At one station, the children were pairing up, pretending to kiss to make imaginary babies. At another, they were drawing pictures of humans with oversized lips and tiny babies popping out of nowhere. Jalen rubbed his face. Oh no. This is worse than I thought. He approached Leary, who looked up at him with innocent curiosity. Good morning, Jalen, she chirped. Do humans really make babies by kissing? Jalen crouched down to her level. No, he said quickly. Humans don't make babies by kissing. That was a mistake. Babies happen in a more complicated way. Leary's big eyes blinked. More complicated? Yes. Humans have special ways to show love and care. And babies grow when humans are ready. Jalen tried to simplify as much as possible. He didn't want to scare them with scientific explanations, but he also wanted to prevent complete chaos. It was already too late. Other children had overheard the conversation and crowded around him. They were bouncing, pointing, and chattering in their musical voices. The rumor had spread so quickly that it seemed everyone in the dome was now aware that humans supposedly made babies by kissing. Jalen sighed. Okay, let's do this differently, he said, trying to regain control. We'll have a lesson. About humans. About how we care for each other. Not about baby making. The children tilted their heads, curious as ever. Jalen decided that, if he could teach them about human emotions and social bonds, maybe they would understand without taking his previous words literally. Humans, Jalen began, standing in the middle of the dome, have feelings. We show love and care in many ways. We hug, we smile, we laugh together. And yes, sometimes we kiss. But kissing is just one way humans show they care. The children listened carefully. Some tried to imitate human gestures, hugging each other awkwardly, patting one another on the back, or holding hands. Leary looked thoughtful, tilting her head and trying to understand. Jalen continued. Humans are very social. We work together. We help each other. We share things we like. That is what makes humans strong. Not just our bodies, not just our brains, but how we feel and care for one another. For a moment, the dome was quiet. Then, one of the older Thrylian children, a tall one named Miko, raised a hand. So, humans are powerful because of emotions? Yes, Jalen said, relieved. Exactly. Humans can survive difficult situations because we feel for each other. We make friends. We help those in need. That is our strength. The children began to experiment. They formed small groups, helping each other build tiny plant nurseries with glowing Vera seedlings, guiding one another, laughing and encouraging. Jalen watched them and realized something remarkable. Even without understanding every detail of human behavior, the Thrylians were absorbing the core idea. But the story of kissing makes babies was far from over. In their play, the Thrylian children had integrated the idea into their games. Some paired off and pretended to make babies with exaggerated gestures, while others created human baby factories from blocks and glowing stones. Every time Jalen tried to redirect them, they returned to the game with renewed energy. By midday, Jalen noticed that a few young Thrylian adults had joined the scene. They were observing quietly, their expressions calm, but eyes sharp. Jalen realized that word of the human baby making kisses had reached them too. And now, the story was reaching a level of curiosity that could not be ignored. He approached one of them, a young adult named Tharos. Hello, Jalen said, awkwardly. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Tharos's 4 eyes blinked in unison. We observed the children. They claim humans make babies by kissing. Is this true? Jalen swallowed hard. No. That's not how it really works. Humans care for each other in many ways. Babies grow when humans are ready, but it is private, complicated. Tharos tilted his head. Interesting. Humans show care in physical and emotional ways. This is powerful. Jalen blinked. Powerful? Yes, Tharos said, his voice calm but firm. Many species rely on strength or speed. Humans rely on something different. Cooperation, empathy, emotional connection. This is unusual. Jalen felt a flush of pride. Even though the misunderstanding had caused chaos, the Thrylian adults were beginning to notice something important. Humans had qualities that aliens could respect and learn from. Back in the dome, the children's games became more organized. They were no longer simply kissing to make babies. Instead, they started experimenting with teamwork. They built small obstacle courses, taking turns helping each other across bridges, sharing glowing seeds, and using human-inspired gestures of care. Jalen realized that by accident, his flustered explanation had led to a discovery. The Thrylians were learning about human social intelligence through play, and humans, in turn, were shining in ways that had little to do with technology or physical strength. During a break, Leary ran up to him, holding a glowing seed in her small hands. Jalen, she said, I like humans. You care for each other in a special way. Jalen smiled. Thank you, Leary. That's true. Humans are very emotional, and we like to help others. Leary nodded seriously. I want to be like that. Maybe when I grow up, I can care like humans. The word struck Jalen. The Thrylians had no concept of human-style emotional depth, yet they were beginning to understand it. And somehow, it all began with a tiny, embarrassed lie about kissing. By evening, Jalen was exhausted. He sat on a bench, watching the children finally slow down, their games winding down. He thought about how humans had often been underestimated in the galaxy, seen as fragile or short-lived. Yet here, in the glowing domes of Vera 7, humans were teaching aliens something vital without even trying. A few of the young Thrylian adults approached him again. You underestimate yourselves, Tharos said. Humans may seem simple, but your emotional intelligence is extraordinary. Jalen chuckled nervously. I was just trying not to embarrass myself earlier, he admitted. I didn't know this would matter. Tharos tilted his head. Even mistakes teach. Humans are unpredictable. That unpredictability is part of your power. Jalen looked out at the glowing forest beyond the dome. The Thrylian children were now quietly organizing seedlings, helping one another, and chatting softly. They were learning, growing. And somehow, humans had left an impression that went far beyond biology or technology. He realized that human strength was not just in brains or machines, it was in their emotions, their bonds, and their ability to connect. And even a small, awkward explanation about baby making had shown that in a way no one could ignore. As he prepared to leave for the evening, Leary waved goodbye. "See you tomorrow, Jalen. Maybe you can teach us more about humans." Jalen waved back, smiling. "Sure, Leary. Tomorrow we'll learn more. Humans have a lot to show." One, 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 one. And in that moment, he understood something important. Humans were not just another species on Vera 7. They were remarkable. Their emotions, their care for one another, and their ability to inspire others even by accident made them extraordinary. Tomorrow, he knew, would bring more chaos, more questions, and more opportunities to demonstrate the unique strength of humanity. And for the first time, he felt proud of that truth, even in a galaxy that often overlooked it. The next morning, Jalen arrived at the dome to find a small group of young Thrillian adults waiting for him. Unlike the children, these adults were calm, analytical, and carefully observing everything. Their 4 eyes blinked in unison as they watched him approach. "Good morning," Jalen said cautiously. He could tell this was not going to be a normal day. "You spoke to the children yesterday about humans," said Tharos, one of the adults, his tone even and calm. "We observed. Your explanation, though incomplete, revealed something unusual. Humans demonstrate emotional intelligence in ways our species cannot fully replicate." Jalen blinked. I guess?" He wasn't used to aliens praising him, let alone humans in general. Tharos tilted his head. "We wish to study humans, scientifically, to understand the methods and impacts of human social bonding." Jalen felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. This sounded serious. If the Thrylians began observing humans, every awkward gesture, every emotional interaction, could be analyzed. And yet, it could also show humans in their best light. "Okay," Jalen said carefully. "I can help. But we need to keep it safe and simple." The Thrylian adults nodded. By mid-morning, the first formal observation session began. Jalen led the Thrylian observers through a series of typical human activities. Talking, laughing, helping one another, and small acts of kindness. He explained each one in simple terms. "This is called teamwork," he said as 2 human colonists worked together to carry a crate of glowing Vera seedlings. "Humans work better when we cooperate. We share ideas and responsibilities." The Thrylians watched carefully, taking notes in ways Jalen could not fully understand. Their heads tilted, eyes blinking as they processed every detail. Next, Jalen demonstrated human problem-solving in a group. "Sometimes we face challenges," he said. "We discuss, argue politely, and find solutions together." He guided a small team to repair a broken hydroponic pump. The humans talked, disagreed, laughed at mistakes, and eventually solved the problem efficiently. Tharos stepped forward, fascinated. "Your species combines reasoning with emotional support. Cooperation is enhanced by care and trust." "Remarkable." Jalen smiled, realizing he was witnessing something incredible. Humans were being recognized for a strength often overlooked by other species: emotional intelligence. As the day progressed, the children joined the adults' observations. They had quieted down after yesterday's chaos, but were eager to see humans in action again. Leary approached Jalen with a small notebook she had borrowed from the observation team. "Jalen," she asked softly, "why do humans care so much for each other? Other species don't do this like you do." Jalen crouched beside her. "I think because humans are connected. We feel each other's happiness and sadness. It's part of what makes us strong." Leary wrote carefully in her notebook. "Humans are strong because of feelings, not muscles, not speed, Exactly, Jalen said. And that is something special. It makes humans survive and succeed in ways others might not expect. Meanwhile, the Thrylian adults were experimenting in other ways. They observed humans sharing food, comforting each other, and even telling jokes. Each interaction was meticulously analyzed, and every human gesture seemed to impress the aliens more. They are unpredictable, Theros noted. Even small actions carry meaning beyond logic. Their intelligence is intertwined with emotion. This is unique. Jalen felt a swell of pride. For so long, humans had been underestimated in the galaxy. Many species dismissed them as fragile, short-lived, and easily replaceable. Yet here, in the glowing domes of Vera 7, humans were demonstrating their greatest strength: connection. By afternoon, a practical exercise began. Jalen divided the humans and Thrylians into mixed teams to complete a series of challenges, such as navigating the bioluminescent forest, carrying delicate seedlings, and solving mechanical problems. At first, the Thrylians were skeptical. They were precise, logical, and often moved faster than humans. But soon, they realized something important. The humans' cooperation, encouragement, and ability to anticipate each other's needs gave them an unexpected edge. When a young Thrylian stumbled while crossing a glowing log bridge, a human reached out instantly, steadying them. Another human suggested a new path through the forest when the first route became blocked. The teams that embraced collaboration, communication, and empathy consistently succeeded faster than those relying solely on logic and speed. Theros observed silently. Emotional intelligence amplifies problem-solving. Humans outperform through connection, not only through physical skill or calculation. 2, 2, 2, 2. Jalen grinned. You're starting to see it, aren't you? Yes, Theros admitted. Humans are remarkable. As the sun dipped beneath Vera 7's green clouds, Jalen led the group back to the dome. Everyone was tired but satisfied. Leary and her friends were quietly discussing their observations, clearly processing everything they had learned. Jalen sat on a bench, rubbing his tired arms. I never thought a silly mistake about kissing would lead to this, he muttered. What mistake? Leary asked, tilting her head curiously. The kissing makes babies thing, Jalen said, trying not to blush. It got everyone talking. And maybe it helped humans show something important. 1. Leary's eyes sparkled. It did. I understand now. Humans are amazing. Not because of fighting or machines, but because of caring for each other. Jalen smiled. Exactly. And that is why humans are special. The Thrylian adults approached him, their expressions unreadable, but their eyes showing respect. We must continue this study, Theros said. Humans demonstrate something other species rarely have: emotional cooperation, adaptability through empathy. This may change how we view humans in the galaxy. 10. Jalen felt a mix of pride and humility. Humans had often been underestimated, dismissed as weak or simple. But here, under alien observation, their true strength, connection, empathy, creativity, was shining through. That evening, Jalen walked through the dome's glowing gardens alone. The forest outside was quiet, the bioluminescent plants casting soft light on his path. He thought about how humans had always relied on emotion and cooperation. From early colonists, working together to survive, to children, learning through play. And somehow, all of that had led to this moment. Aliens, recognizing human value in a way that went far beyond physical strength or technology. For the first time, Jalen realized that humans' greatest power was not something that could be measured with machines or weapons. It was in their hearts, their minds, and their bonds with each other. That power was unpredictable, often misunderstood, but impossible to ignore. As he prepared to leave for the night, he noticed Leary still scribbling notes under the soft glow of a plant. She looked up at him and whispered, "Tomorrow, can we learn more? About humans? About how to care like you do?" Jalen chuckled softly. "Yes, Leary." And as he stepped into the soft night of Vera 7, he felt a quiet pride. Humans were not just another species on this distant world. They were extraordinary. Their emotions, their connections, and their ability to work together made them shine in ways no alien had expected. Even a flustered answer about baby making awkward, silly, and incomplete had revealed the truth. Humans were remarkable. And now, the Thrylians were beginning to see it too. Jalen knew that the discovery was only beginning. Tomorrow would bring more observations, more questions, and perhaps even more misunderstandings. But he was ready. Humans had survived challenges before, not because of strength alone, but because of care, cooperation, and the bonds that tied them together. And now, on Vera 7, humans were showing the galaxy that their greatest power lay not in tools or weapons, but in the heart. It started as a quiet morning on Vera 7. The purple skies glowed faintly as the twin suns rose over the bioluminescent forests. Jalen walked into the main dome, sipping a cup of steaming nutrient drink. He expected another day of lessons and observations, but the calm was deceptive. A sharp alarm echoed through the colony. Red lights flashed, reflecting off the glowing plants and metallic domes. Humans and Thrylians alike paused, listening to the blaring warning. "Environmental breach," one of the human technicians shouted. "A containment field failure in the northern hydroponic sector. Plants and seedlings are at risk." Jalen felt a jolt of adrenaline. The northern sector was the heart of the colony's food supply. Without intervention, weeks of work could be destroyed. He rushed to gather a team. But then he paused. Looking around, he realized the Thrylian observers were already assessing the situation. Their eyes were sharp, calculating, but something was missing. The humans didn't just see the problem. They felt it. They knew how much effort had gone into the hydroponics, how fragile life could be on Vera 7, and how important cooperation was. Jalen took a deep breath. "Everyone," he called. "We need to move fast. Humans and Thrylians together. Follow my lead, and pay attention to each other. Communication and teamwork will save this." The Thrylians tilted their heads, processing the instruction. Jalen knew this would be the moment to show what humans were really capable of. The team moved to the northern sector. The containment field, a shimmering bubble of energy designed to protect the glowing seedlings, was flickering and collapsing. If it failed completely, the seedlings would be destroyed, and parts of the hydroponic structure could collapse. Jalen directed humans and Thrylians to different tasks. Humans began organizing tools, stabilizing the fragile plants, and guiding others. Thrylian adults monitored energy flows and recalibrated the containment field. At first, progress was slow. The Thrylians moved with precision, but without the humans' intuitive communication. Some tasks overlapped, while others were neglected. Jalen realized the problem immediately. "Talk to each other," he shouted, moving between groups. "Watch your partner. Help when needed. Don't wait for instructions. Look around and act." The humans sprang into action, connecting with the Thrylians. One human lifted a trembling Thrylian child away from a falling seedling. Another signaled to an adult about a weak support beam. The human's instinct to notice problems and support others spread through the group like wildfire. Even the Thrylian adults began to adapt. They observed how humans moved, how humans instinctively coordinated through gestures, hand signals, and quick explanations. Slowly, they began mimicking the human's way of connecting, communicating not just with logic, but with awareness and care. Jalen ran to the central control panel. The containment field needed a precise energy adjustment to stabilize it. Normally, this was a job for the Thrylian engineers, but the humans had an idea. Jalen instructed one human to use a manual energy calibration, while another monitored plant vitality. The humans guided each other, calling out warnings and helping to balance the energy flow. A flicker of the field and then stability returned. The seedlings swayed but remained intact. Jalen felt a surge of relief. The team wasn't done yet. A support beam in the hydroponic dome had begun to crack. If it collapsed, it could destroy dozens of seedlings. Humans and Thrylians worked side by side. Humans offered encouragement and quick problem-solving suggestions, while the Thrylians provided strength and precision. "Lift together on my count," Jalen shouted. The combined effort held the beam steady, while others reinforced it. Cheers erupted as the danger passed. Through it all, the Thrylian observers were silent but attentive. They watched humans' instincts, their ability to notice needs, communicate, and act with empathy. Every small gesture mattered, holding a shaky hand, adjusting a plant without being asked, offering a word of encouragement. When the final stabilization was complete, Jalen looked around. Everyone was sweaty, tired, but smiling. The seedlings were safe, the structure intact, and the colony's hydroponic sector had survived. Theros approached him, eyes blinking in unison. "This demonstrates what we observed yesterday. Humans excel not only through logic or speed, but through connection. Your species' strength lies in collaboration and empathy. Even crises are managed through care, attention, and teamwork." Jalen nodded, feeling proud but exhausted. "It's just how humans work. We notice each other, we help each other, and we adapt. That's how we survive and succeed." Leary ran up, holding her notebook tightly. "Jalen, humans are amazing. You helped everyone together. Even the Thrylians learned from you." Jalen laughed softly. "Yes, Leary. And you helped too. Observing and learning matters just as much as acting." The Thrylian adults looked at each other thoughtfully. "Humans' ability to coordinate instinctively is remarkable," Theros said. "Other species would rely solely on strategy or calculation. Humans combine heart and mind. This is unique." That evening, as the colony returned to its calm rhythm, Jalen walked through the glowing gardens alone. The bioluminescent plants lit his path, and the twin suns were dipping below the horizon. He thought about what had just happened. A simple misunderstanding, a flustered answer about kissing, had sparked curiosity. That curiosity had led to observation, learning, and finally, demonstration. The humans' emotional intelligence, their instinct to connect and cooperate, had saved the colony. And in doing so, they had proved something vital. Humans were extraordinary, not because of machines, weapons, or physical strength, but because of empathy, care, and connection. He smiled quietly. Even the smallest human gestures mattered. Encouraging a child, lending a hand, noticing a problem, or showing kindness, these acts had ripple effects. In a galaxy that often judged species by speed, strength, or technology, humans had something no one else could replicate: the power of heart. Leary appeared beside him again, notebook in hand. "Jalen, tomorrow, can we learn more? About humans? About how to care for each other?" Jalen chuckled. "Yes, Leary. Humans have much to show, and the galaxy has much to learn from us too." For the first time, Jalen felt a quiet pride in what it meant to be human. Humans had survived centuries, not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they cared. They worked together, protected one another, and turned even mistakes into lessons. And here on Vera 7, they had proved that once again. In the distance, the children were quietly experimenting with seedlings, talking, and helping each other. The adults were observing, learning, and beginning to understand. And somewhere, in the glowing forests beyond the domes, The galaxy was waiting, ready to see humans for what they truly were. Humans were extraordinary, unpredictable, emotional, compassionate, and when the moment came, capable of shining brighter than any alien expectation. Even a flustered explanation about baby-making, a silly, awkward moment had helped reveal that truth. Jalen looked up at the glowing sky, feeling both relief and pride. Humanity had shown today, not through technology, not through might, but through what they had always relied on: their hearts, their connections, and the power of caring for one another. And he knew, deep down, that no alien, no challenge, and no misunderstanding could ever take that away from them. Humans were extraordinary. They always had been. The colony slept peacefully that night, the seedlings glowing softly, the domes quiet, and the Thrylians observing thoughtfully. Tomorrow would bring more questions, more learning, and more opportunities to see what humans were capable of. But for now, humanity had proven its worth in the simplest, most profound way. By showing that heart, empathy, and cooperation could solve problems no machine or logic could. And that made humans truly remarkable.